Good morning. We'd like to welcome you to the show. My name's Donnie Glover. Let's do this right. I'd like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.
And absent, we need God. Because only God can bring us out of this mess.
Wonderfully made. I may not look like you and you me, but that's the way it's supposed to be. Dare to be you, dare to be me, and dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, and dare to be.
All right. First name's Donnie, last name's Glover, in it to win it. We need that music. Phone is blowing up. All right, election's over here in the state of Maryland. Thank God. And we got a new state's attorney here in the city of Baltimore, or at least Ivan Bates. Hey, I can't talk. I'm on the air. I sent the email. All right. Maryland lost, Ivan won, and then Westmore won. And that station that was pushing, what's his name? Freak Nasty. They did all of that for nothing, because Freak Nasty for state's attorney did not win. But all right, so I've shared with you on multiple occasions that America has 5% of the world's population, but we have 25% of the world's inmates. Now, Black people make up anywhere from 15 to 20% of the population, yet we comprise half of the people in prisons. And here to discuss this topic, the BeMoreNews.com and BlackUSA.news that we've been covering for over 25, 26 years. We're going to talk about this topic. Gwen, I need you to cut your camera on. Are you there? I'm going to go to some of my friends who know this topic all too well. First up in New York City, Mr. Victor Pate. You got to unmute yourself, Mr. Vic.
Good morning, my brother. Good morning. Good to see you. Good to hear you and all that other good stuff. How's it going there in B-More?
We are coming August 12th to Harlem. I need some honorees, okay?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it as we speak, my brother. I'm working on it.
The Mr. Victor Pate, this is Biggie Montague.
How you doing,
Gwen, are you there? Okay, we got Allison. Hey, Allison.
Hi, Donnie. Good morning.
Good. So, Gwen, I think you froze up there. So, okay, I think she's back. Are you there, Gwen? Now you got to hold that thing still. You can't hold it for a whole hour. There you go. And then somebody got to unmute her mic. All right. So, Allison, I want to welcome you to the show. Since you're a lady, we want to let you start this off. I don't know where Cynthia is. Cynthia ducking us out. But Allison, tell us what happened Saturday. What was going on Saturday?
So Saturday, Cynthia Boykin and I had a great conversation because we're working on a project called Incorrigibles about the history of young women's incarceration, starting with these records that were found from the 20s and 30s from an institution in New York called the New York State Training School for Girls. And so I've been doing research into the history of the institution and doing interviews with women who were at the institution when they were young, because as many as 15,000 girls went through there, Ella Fitzgerald being the most well-known, and creating kind of an archive of first-person stories of young women who were incarcerated. And then we're doing workshops with young women today, these kind of intergenerational writing and story sharing workshops as well, to try and understand what girls and families today need.
And this is a women's institution in upstate New York?
Correct. It's currently a medium security men's prison called Hudson Correctional, but in 1908 it opened as the Women's House of Refuge, and then in the late 1800s it opened as the Women's House of Refuge, and then from 1904 to 1975 it was what was called the New York State Training School for Girls, which is kind of a euphemism for a juvenile institution for young women.
And who was the most famous inmate there?
So the most famous girl that was ever sent there was Ella Fitzgerald, and she was. The project is also very much about language because she was sent for being ungovernable and not obeying the just and lawful commands of her mother. It quote unquote in the intake forms.
And we have another lady who just joined us, and I may mute your microphone from time to time depending on the feedback that we sometimes get. But I'm gonna bring in Gwen. Gwen, how you doing?
Wonderful. So glad to be here this morning with you all.
What's your story, Gwen?
Conversation. As you know, yesterday was election day in my state. So I really want to talk about some things about that if we get an opportunity.
Well, tell them your story.
Well, my name is Gwen Levi, incarcerated for 16 years on a 35-year federal charge. Did 9 of my years in the state prison, the only federal state prison in Maryland. Got sent home in 2020 on the CARES Act. Found out that there was a Office of Legal memo that said that I could be sent back. Me and 3,000 some other people could be sent back who had gotten out on the CARES Act because President Trump had decided that, well, when the pandemic is over with, the Justice Department has 30 days to send us back. I thought that was a real injustice and shouldn't be done. So I started lobbying and participating with organizations like FAM, Families Against Mandatory Minimum.
Well, maybe, Gwen, Trump will be in that predicament his own self.
Oh, yeah, we're looking forward to seeing that. But anyway,
he will fully understand.
Yeah. There's a couple of organizations, National Council of Formerly Incarcerated Women. They started lobbying to have this memo rescinded. And so I became a spokesperson speaking out about it. As a result, I didn't have my computer literacy classes, this is all geared to why we need more programs for people coming home. We return to our communities unprepared. I was unprepared. I didn't know how to use a computer. So somebody developed a class. I signed up for the class. Okay, remember, I'm on home monitor now. I'm on home confinement. I signed up for the class, told them where the class was, everything about the class, went to a couple of classes. They decided to give me a phone call. I didn't answer because you turn your phone off while you're in class, okay? I got charged with escape and got sent back to prison. I was sent back for 21 days in outcry all over the country from organizations like the ones I just mentioned and other people, local organizations, Maryland Justice Project, lots of them. They lobbied and said that I shouldn't go back to prison. There was proof saying that I was in class. It wasn't in misjustice. And I got sent back to prison for 21 days. Finally, my judge heard what had been on her desk, my compassionate release plea had been on her desk for over a year, and she signed it and allowed me to come home on compassionate release as a result of people like you all and your organizations coming together. And so as a result, that's why I'm here. I want to be a part of that group that you all are in. I want to be a part of the group that makes sure that when people come home, they don't come home like I do, at a loss and with a threat over their head. Right now,
hold that thought, Gwen. Mr. Vic, I need you to keep your camera still and unmute your mic. Hit that mic. There we go.
I had to switch to my phone. I was having technical and audio difficulties. I'm in.
While you got the floor, tell them who you are, Mr. Vic.
I am Victor Pate, formerly incarcerated person. I am the co-director of the Halt Solitary Confinement campaign in New York. And we are a campaign who have successfully advocated for the ending of long-term solitary confinement in New York State. And it is the first law that has ever been passed in New York State that addresses people being placed in long-term solitary confinement in New York State prisons as well as New York State jails, and it has been officially implemented as of March the 31st of this year, as well as an advocate that's connected with just about every criminal justice reform advocacy organization in New York State that's doing any type of work that's addressing reform. So the criminal justice system and policies in prisons and jails as to the treatment of people that are in our prisons and jails while they're incarcerated as well as when they come home. Additionally, being the chairperson at the National Action Network of the only Second Chance Committee out of the 100 plus chapters of the National Action Network that has a Second Chance Committee that is working to assist formerly incarcerated people as well as working on legislation for further criminal justice reform. So that's who Victor Pate is. And thank you, and I'm honored to be here amongst you all.
Mr. Biggie Montague, tell them who you are.
Well, my name is Biggie Montague. I run a community center, and I have a nonprofit with the name is Biggie, stands for Because Intensive Giving Gets You Started. You know, I work with the governor, and I'm hoping to work with the new governor that's coming in, like a liaison. You know, the governor come to me, I take it to the community and bring it back, to the governor, back and forth. My thing is to help and put a message out there for the youngins, you know, to understand that that hustling in the street, you know, can cause you to ruin your whole entire life with one mistake. So I keep that in the front, in the front of these young guys at all times. I speak out at schools and inform them the different ways that you can get around, you know, hustling in the street. You know, everybody think, most young kids think that, not everybody, most young kids think that the only way they can survive out here in the streets is hustling. And they don't understand that once you get incarcerated, you know, because I'm a prevent incarcerator. You mean I had 17 years to 12 years on the 17. I try to let these young guys know that that's not the way, and that it's not all glamour what they think. You know, it's a whole different aspect when you go behind that door. So my thing is to really basically try to catch the young guys before they ruin their life. Not just young guys, you know, young ladies also. So my goal is to try to help as many young people as I can to not ruin their life.
Gwen, any thoughts on women? Black women are the fastest growing demographic in the prison industrial complex. How do we get to these young people? How do we reach these young ladies? I mean, and quite often, of course, is fatherlessness. Also, there's a lot of sexual trauma. Help me out, Gwen.
Well, for me, I believe that the elders, we have to bring us back into the picture. We're sitting on the sidelines. We're coming home. Maybe some of us are not getting involved. We're coming home, getting involved. We are a large population. We have a voting power. Not only just a voting power, but talking and mentoring our young ladies into letting them be who let them know that they're more than what their bodies show them. They have more than what their bodies show them. And we got to let them stop emphasizing their body and emphasize their mind, teaching them some just basic principles of womanhood, parenting classes inside. A lot of lose custody of your kids the day you step inside of prison in a lot of states. You lose custody. So how do we get these women to stay connected? It starts inside. We can't wait until we get outside to deal with this issue. While we're inside, maybe some of us can start mentoring programs where we have our young daughters come in, where we have our young kids come in and be with us and mentor, and we can mentor them. There are a lot of things that we can do, but we have to organize. And one thing I'm here to learn is how to organize.
Allison, any thoughts on averting young women from going into these institutions?
Well, that's one of the things that we're trying to do in our small way by kind of creating these intergenerational conversations and also having people kind of reclaim the language that's used very often, you know, to to define them and to try and understand, if a young woman is acting out or running away or missing school, to understand that there's a reason for that and not just punish the behavior, but figure out what's going on and be able to address the problem.
Allison, why do you care?
There's so much injustice in the justice system. I started working on this in 2000 when the 2 millionth person was about to go into prison, and I decided to do a web documentary about the biggest social issue in the country, and decided it was the criminal justice system. And it was really, I had read a book. I mean, it was talking to many people, but I also read a book by Stephen Donziger called The Real War on Crime, and it was edited with all these essays about how the U.S., the choices that were made in the U.S. had created this burgeoning system with millions of people when many other countries had been at the same level and had made different choices. And to kind of try and understand what happened and how we could begin to address that and kind of have people that were involved in the system begin to be able to talk about what they've been through. And to see.
I gotta cut you for a second, Cynthia. If you don't keep that camera still and stop making me dizzy this morning, Cynthia, can you hear me, Cynthia Boykin? Cynthia, you can't hear me. We can't hear you. You may have to take her offline there, Allison. Okay. Didn't mean to cut you, Allison. It's just trying to get some order here. So, Mr. Vic, where do we go from here? Okay. Gwen, where do you want to take this from here?
Gwen? Where would I like to take it from here? I'd like to take it organizing our formerly incarcerated women, formerly incarcerated men, organize us into a powerful union, if not a union, an organization such as they have in New York, such as Mr. Pate has, where we can lobby and effectively make changes so that we can do the empowerment of our young people. We can do the parenting programs, but to let us know that we have a power. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. We have a power that is being unused. It definitely was unused yesterday in our election. It definitely was underused. We had the power to make a difference and we weren't there.
Why you say that, Gwen? Gwen, why do you say that?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Gwen. Gwen dropped the phone and knocked the thing off. Okay.
I dropped out for a minute. I know you was asking something and I got off for a minute.
I'm not hearing anything.
Oh.
Where do we go from here, Mr. Vic?
So I always say, no matter where we go, we always go forward. And what does that forward look like? Forward looks like education. Forward looks like collaboration. Forward looks like getting together collectively for a common goal and stop being our own enemies. A lot of times in our respective fields, we all seem to be going in a different direction. Okay. And in going in that different direction, I think that what happens is that the power, that collective power, is diluted. When I speak about power being diluted, I'm referring to our political empowerment, our political power, our political influence. And I can tell you that here, we in New York have definitely been doing some powerful work, politically empowerment, because we have been successful in getting our first formerly incarcerated New York State Assemblyman and our New York State legislator. That was plan number one. We've been successful with that. Plan number two is to ensure that those marginalized community who are not normally engaged in civic and political process gets engaged and gets involved and actually go to the polls, because you have to look at the heart of where does it stem from. It stems from those in power, the people who make the rules and the policies. How does that happen? People elect them in and people elect them out. I think that we have to focus on empowering and educating our people as to the political process, how we can gain from our numbers and actually going to the poll and using that power. We've been pretty successful here in New York with doing that. We're gaining a lot of political momentum. We've gotten a lot of formerly incarcerated people in various positions of influence and power and decision making. So I'm not just talking about being at the table. I'm talking about making decisions at the table, because you're talking two different circumstances. Having a seat at the table, but having a seat at the table where your voice is impactful when you can make a decision. So that's basically a overview of what I say next steps forward: community, education, empowerment, and political engagement.
Cynthia Boykin.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Donnie. Thank you for inviting me. Good morning, Allison. Biggie, Victor, I'm glad to be here this morning. I can tell I'm in a good conversation.
Yeah, so hold up. We're going to get Gwen in there. Now, Gwen, okay, let me unmute you. Gwen, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Do not touch the phone. No more. Leave it there. Yeah, there we go. All right. So we got 3 sisters, 3 brothers. Now, don't touch your phones. Just don't touch it. Okay. All right. So, Cynthia, you guys, you go from Chicago to Arizona to New York. I thought you're from Chicago. Come to find out you're from Newburgh, New York. I'd never heard of it. Biggie, you've been all over the world. Mr. Vic, you New York, you worldly. Ms. Allison, you up in New York State. Gwen, you in Baltimore. Here's the coalition right here. You have a coalition. All of you are powerful. So I gotta make sure all of you have each other's phone number. So Mr. Vic, let me just do that now. Put your phone number out there, Mr. Vic.
Okay, I'm putting it in the chat as we speak.
Okay, my number is 410-302-2307.
One more time.
That's 410-302-2307.
Now, what I love about Biggie will step to the governor, to the dude on the corner. It doesn't matter. Biggie, you even took 9 slugs, didn't you?
Yeah. Yes, and it was for my community, because the thing is, I'm just not gonna let it happen. My goal is to clean the community up. And I understand, like I say, I don't want to jump the gun, but my man was saying, with the collective, everybody getting together, my thing is to bring the programs together as one too, so we have a voice. Don't just sit at the table. We want a voice at the table. I really like what he said. So I feel the same way, in Baltimore, man. We need to, have a voice at the table. And my thing is to start with the governor. Like I told the lady that's running now with the Kelly Schultz that she stepped to me.
She lost. She ding ding. You got to get a new
Right. So my thing, but the thing is to get with the one that's in there now. And I'm kind of proud that Black folks, won that thing, man, because that's what we was looking for. So the thing is now.
Hold up, Biggie. Gwen, you said that you didn't think people showed up yesterday, right?
Not in the strength that we could have. No, the turnout was very low. I worked the polls. I worked 3 different polls yesterday, 3 different sites. The turnout there was never a line of more than 4 people in line at one time. And mostly those sites. I worked 3 different sites yesterday, and I expected more. Maybe that was my expectations were too high. But I know that in some instances, we got the job done. We seem to have elected, hopefully, if he can stay up there, it's undecided, our first Black governor, maybe, you know.
Right.
There's some really good things that did happen yesterday, but like I said, so much more could have been decisive issues. Things could have been decided by the vote.
Like what, Gwen? Like what?
Races could have been decided if we had came out in full force to vote.
What race, Gwen? What race in particular?
State's attorney's race is still up in limbo. Some of the races for
Ivan Bates, the one that ran that thing, he about to take his oath off. Well, he gotta beat the lady in the general. Are you a Marilyn Mosby fan?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, and the reason why is because I saw her progress. I saw her evolve from who she started out to be, heavily incarcerating people with no thought of how much time she gave people, to a person who looked back and saw, oh wow, look what I've done. Let's see what I can do to correct it. Who's a person who, when I came home in 2 years, I've seen her more visibly in the community than any politician, including our mayor. I've seen her more visibly in community organizations, community neighborhoods than anybody that I've seen. That's why
Gwen, her number one job is prosecuting crime. That's her number one job, and that's the job that she gonna get judged on. Is she prosecuting crime? Now she can't do it all by herself.
I can't hear you.
I don't know why, but okay. Allison, help me out. What do you want to see?
I'm not hearing anything you're saying, Victor. I mean, Donnie.
Okay, well, you just hold tight. Allison, where do we go from here? Can we get some contact information from you? Can we help organize what Mr. Victor Pate has been doing on an even broader scale?
No, I'd love to connect with Victor offline. My phone number is 917-575-1025. Again, it's 917-575-1025. And the project that I'm working on is called incorrigibles.org. But I'm very hopeful in some ways, because the Vera Institute of Justice 5 years ago started working on ending girls' incarceration in New York City. And it's really been working, and they're now working in 5 cities throughout the country. And I think you start with ending girls' incarceration because they're the smallest population, youth incarceration, and then kind of broaden out to incarceration overall. I'm
not hearing anybody.
Okay, well, I don't know what to tell you, but you're gonna have to keep quiet though, Gwen, because we can hear you. Okay, come on.
I'm also hopeful because in New York, as Victor said, there are things that are moving, and hopefully there can be some of what has been learned in New York can be shared. And there's also, there's great organizations like the Fortune Society working with youth that are coming out, and Topeka's.
I'm not hearing the conversation.
Topeka's, maybe Gwendolyn. Oh, I was going to say maybe she should re-enter. And Topeka Sam started Hope House, and Donna Hilton, who was at Bedford, started an organization called A Little Piece of Light. So these people are coming out and starting these organizations to help returning citizens in their small ways. And I think that the more of those kinds of organizations that are set up, the better. Because again, I think people have to do their own work, while we're waiting for larger systemic change.
Okay, Mr. Victor, where do we go from here? Oh, damn. All right, Cynthia, your turn. Tag, you're it. She done froze. What y'all got the government watching y'all. That's what it is. I did a show like this with a famous attorney. Every time he talked, they was zapping.
Yeah, every time you call my name, that somebody pressed the button on me. But go ahead, brother. I hear you now.
Okay. What next?
Didn't I mention something to that effect? Well, first of all, I want everybody, like I did, put my contact number and your phone number so that we can definitely make sure we have everybody's I don't think everybody did as of yet. I know Allison and I know Cynthia did. Brother Biggie, I didn't see yours, and I already have yours, Gwen. So I think that just the people who didn't, please do that so we can make sure that we all have our contact. And I heard you say something, Allison, about Topeka Sam, who is somebody that I know and work with here in New York. She's part of the National Council of Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, and they're doing some phenomenal work here in New York. I think that when we have these types of forums and platforms, that we should not let this be the first and the last. Oftentimes, that's what happens. And there is no follow-up, there is no connections, there is no sharing of strategies and information, which is why I think that a lot of times there's so much lack of progress in other states. And I know we all have a different political makeup in our various states, but I think that what we have to now do, we have to make our legislators not only be conscious of what we may be doing in our individual states, but more what we are doing collectively statewide to let them know we're on one page. I don't care if you live in Alaska, you're still talking about releasing people, re-entry, empowerment, education, opportunities, so that people return to the communities better equipped to be that productive citizen that you all talk so much about, as opposed to this being punitive. What about redemption? What about second chances? What about restorative justice? And I think that if we begin to do this on a collective statewide level, that I think that a lot more can get done across the state, because there's many statewide collaboratives going on that, I'm a part of myself, that's going across the state. And we all have individual stuff that we might be focusing on, but we also have a collective. And I think that we need to make sure that that happens with this particular group post this phone call, and that we don't not make the first and last time that we are in touch with each other by email, phone call, etc. So I think continuity of communication and sharing of strategies can help us all move our balls closer to our individual and collective goals.
I like that. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Victor.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, that was good, man.
Yes, you're absolutely correct, Victor. I've been going a little in and out here with my technical, but I'm so excited to be here. And I was incarcerated in Hudson School for Girls. I'm a part of the Encourageables Project in 1972, 50 years ago. So it was a subject I never really talked about, but it was always, in my forefront, because you can never forget that, being in the institution. And that's how I connected with Encourageables some years ago. I think about maybe 8 years ago, and been working with the project. And I was raised in Newburgh, New York, which is an area where a lot of young ladies were institutionalized, many of them that was from there. And that's why the project is there. And I'm sure Allison talked about what the project is. So one of the things that I am passionate about doing now is raising awareness of girls being incarcerated, because I actually was one. But now, 50 years later, I have a life that is productive. So that's a testimony about being productive, and that I kept this like little secret. But now I'm ready to go firsthand with the young ladies and restore them before they get into a system that is very hard to get out and can just completely destroy your whole family.
Right.
Because there's a lot of opportunities now. And that's why, with the Encourageables, it's intergenerational. The young and the old, can meet right there, because we're all facing the same things. And then some of us have faced it. So I'm very happy to be a part of the Encourageables Project and to meet each and every one of you and be able to connect with you and see what we can do, because united we can stand. Because sometimes you think you're out there by yourself and you don't have support, but we just have to stay connected.
Okay, so look, we're being joined via phone by Mr. Rudy Williams. Hi, Mr. Rudy.
Hey, Johnny, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Can y'all hear him okay?
I can't.
I can hear him a little bit.
Rudy, say hello again. Do a sound check.
Hello. Good morning.
Yeah, it's a lousy connection. Try that link.
Yeah, I hear him very low, so I'm gonna have to put my phone to my ear when he talks. So, pardon.
Keep going. I'm sorry. Allison, you are driving. Please keep driving.
Okay.
I have to unmute myself. So just to follow up on what Cynthia was saying, because when I first talked about the project, I didn't mention that we're because so many of the young women were sent to the New York State Training School from Newburgh. This summer, we've brought this traveling exhibition about the history of young women's incarceration to Newburgh, to Ann Street Gallery, which is part of a larger housing project called Safe Harbors on the Hudson. And the exhibition is called Incorrigibles, Bearing Witness to the Incarcerated Girls of New York. And the exhibition is only kind of the hub to create these intergenerational workshops, writing and story sharing events, film screenings, and we also are doing art activities like wand making for creating totems of personal power for girls and things like that. So if anyone gets a chance to come to Newburgh, we would love to have you join there. So Gwendolyn, I have a question for you. When did you get out?
When?
Gwen, are you there?
No,
June 2nd, 2020.
2020.
Under the CARES Act.
Okay. And at the time that you came out, what were the most difficult things you faced, and how did you Gwen, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you now. June 2nd, 2020. Under the CARES Act.
Gwen, you got something else going on over there. What you do, Gwen? Gwen. Hey, Gwen.
My most difficult thing was navigating through the I'm in the room with Rudy. I'm in the room with Rudy Williams.
Gwen, you doing too much stuff, baby.
Yes, I'm here. My most difficult thing was navigating through the
Hey, Johnny, she's doing multitask, man.
Somebody got another phone on.
She's multitasking.
Okay, well, the multitasking.
I'm sitting still
Well,
on this phone that keeps falling out of the contraption.
So Allison, this speaks to just some of the basic challenges.
I am not.
Okay, I'm gonna have to meet you, Gwen. Biggie, you can tell me even better. What happens when folk come home and they've been away for 10, 15 years? I mean, some of the simplest things become complicated, I would imagine. If you went away and there wasn't no subway, and then you come back home and everybody on the subway.
Yeah, it take a minute to really get adjusted to society, because you've been gone so long. The simplest things, mean so much. Like, you've been gone over 10, 15 years. They got electronic devices that you don't know nothing about. You don't know how to work them, and you think they're the hardest thing to work in the world, but they're not. And then sometimes you can bring some of them habits that was in prison. I know I did, because you stack the soap up in your cell, so you find yourself, going to the market and buying, cases of soap. I mean, it's just different things, But what my hang up was eating fast, because it's a system where in certain jails that when the first person start, and the last person, start eating, it's only a certain time. So you develop a habit of eating fast. So when I was took to the restaurant after being gone for over 10 years, I was sitting at the table and the people around me was like, slow down, but it's just something that you so used to doing for so many years, you don't even realize that you eating fast. But in that system, you are accustomed to eating fast so you can get it in and get it out. It's a number of things. You've been taking showers for so long, to sit in a bathtub. I mean, these are little things, but they mean so much when you come back to society. It's a lot, man. I can sit here and tell you all day the little teeny things that, people might think that's small to people that never been behind that door, but it's big, And by me going to prison at a young age, I never knew how much a tube of toothpaste costs, or soap. I never really focus on that because I was a teenager, running the street, just in the midst of trying to move out my parents' house before I got incarcerated. So little things like that, man, you have to refocus yourself, man. And it's not simple.
Let me pull in Victor Pate. I saw you shaking your head, Mr. Vic. Some of that makes sounds familiar.
Yeah, definitely, Brother Biggie. He definitely brung up, and see, this is one of the things that, collateral damages is forever.
Yeah.
Now, I've been out of the system for 25 years, but guess what? I still consider myself doing re-entry, and the reason why I see that, there are certain, Brother Biggie pointed to the small things that we are accustomed to doing, and we bring those behaviors home with us, and even after long periods of time of being out of the system, there's certain things that you just continue to do.
Exactly.
That speaks to the collateral damages, right? I think one of the most difficult things for me when I came home was socialization, communication, having conversations. You know what I'm saying? And when you're inside, for the most part, you're always cognizant of your surroundings. Like, you're talking to somebody, but you're looking around. It's not like we got this one-on-one, everybody, oh yeah, look somebody in the eye. No. Behind the wall, you better be looking around to see what's going on. What's getting ready to pop. So, I mean, my eyes be going, and they be like, why you keep looking around like that? I'm talking to people, and why your eyes moving like that? I said, oh, I'm just doing that. So that getting reaccustomed to the socialization, the conversation, right? And always stood with my back against the wall. Yeah. Always go out in public. Everywhere I go, I'm up against the wall. No, I'm sorry, I'm sitting there. I'm the first one to sit in the seat against the wall. All right. But I'm always in a position that I can watch all angles. And after a while, people like they start looking at me funny. Like, oh, this guy looking around. Like, just like he brought something, you eating quick. But you eating quick because you got to get it in and get out. Hopefully nothing don't jump off while you having your meal so you can finish your meal. So those are all the things that, like I say, while I'm listening to Brother Biggie, it's like a flashback. And that speaks to the collateral damages. It never goes away. You learn to cope, you learn to deal, and you move on. Like I said, I've been out of the system for 25 years, but guess what? I still have collateral damages and flashbacks. I do not like small elevators. I will not get in the elevator because I can't take the closing door, because that reminds me of being in solitary confinement. So even today, I cannot do small elevators. I cannot. Any place I got to go, you know what I'm saying? If it's going to be an elevator, it better be a big elevator. If it's a small elevator, I'm not getting in. I'll see you later. Put me on the phone because I'm not going to. So there's things that, Biggie talk about that even years and years and years, and especially if you went to jail at a young age, you know what I'm saying, like Brother Biggie did, you still doing re-entry. Your re-entry is forever. So I say today, I'm still doing re-entry. I'm still in the process because there's some things I'm still trying to get used to. My behavior, my attitude, my ability to not take things so personal. You know what I'm saying? So these are things that now, 25 years later, the collateral damages is still here, but I'm still working on it.
Amen, brother. Amen. Amen, brother. Amen.
Allison, when you think about the behavior that comes back home, that includes sexual trauma. Any thoughts on sexual trauma in our community?
Yeah, that's when I was looking at documents, archival documents from the 20s and 30s, I realized how many of the girls that were sent to this institution had been sexually and physically abused, and they were sent away rather than the perpetrators of abuse. And as I've been doing interviews with women who were there when they were young, I found that some of the women were sexually abused and physically abused before they went there, but also there was 2 women that I know of that I've met that were sexually abused at the institution, and have found them a lawyer to sue the state. But also in the research that I've done, sexual trauma underlies, they call it the sexual abuse to prison pipeline. There's reports by the Georgetown, the Center for Poverty and at the Georgetown Law School. It's one of the reports that they did. But it's about 90% of women and girls in the justice system have a history of trauma, not necessarily sexual, but often and abuse, and very large ACE scores, adverse childhood experience scores, which create difficulties in health and kind of create this track into the injustice system.
But what I'm getting to, Allison, also you got people that bring that behavior home and cause sexual trauma to other people, including family members, including the little girls in the family or the little boys in the family.
Right. I mean, there's that statement that hurt people hurt people. I mean, there is, I think sometimes that people, even people that there's a film that we screened as part of the project called The Wisdom of Trauma. And there's a doctor named Gabor Mate that's been working on studying trauma for many, many, many years. And he talks about how, with trauma, very often you shut down and you don't feel. And very often it's very difficult to break that cycle. And because then you very often will get into a relationship where something can be similar to that. And so until we really address trauma and see it and understand how prevalent it is, we're not going to be able to change it. And we need to make more awareness of how child sex abuse still, how prevalent it still is.
Well, I want to speak to something on the positive side. Mr. Victor, when we come to New York on August the 12th, as always, Mr. Vic helps us to honor people who work in the ex-offender community. I'm going to have to put you on mute when you got feedback. So in the ex-offender community in New York City, we give away these Black Wall Street Awards. And Mr. Vic, it brings to mind the last awards we did in New York. You had some amazing honorees, but 2 or 3 times before that, so 2-3 years ago, I still can't forget the brother who you gave an award to, who built a library on Rikers Island. I ain't gonna never forget that, Mr. Vic.
Yeah, I remember the brother, and I think he also went on to author a few books. I'm blanking on his name, but I think him and we actually seen each other a few times after that.
So we will be going to New York on August the 12th. We celebrate Black entrepreneurs and professionals, as well as the people who support them, regardless of race. We've honored over 1,900 individuals of all races. Our goal is to inspire entrepreneurship. Biggie, I think you got did you get a Black Wall Street Award, Biggie?
Yeah, you gave me one a couple years ago.
Okay.
I mean, out Columbia.
Okay, now Cynthia, I need you to tell them the rest of your story, that you're a big-time PR person, and you all over the world hanging out with millionaires and all of that. And I want to know why this is important to you. Why you could have forgot, you could have repressed all of this, never even mentioned Newburgh, but you're going out here on a limb and testifying. You're trying to save a soul. I get it.
Wow. Well, you put all the words together because I had kind of repressed it. You know, I just kept moving. You know, I do what I do in my business, you know, travel, meet people, work with people, but it was always in me and people knew individual stories about it. But it took me actually connecting with Encourageables to almost like stir up a gift that was something that was laying dormant inside of me. And I always help women, young
You didn't
women.
want to go home, right, Cynthia? You did not
Oh,
want to
no,
go
no,
back
no.
to Newburgh.
I did not want to go back to Newburgh. I never had good thoughts about Newburgh. I just thought Newburgh was just this horrible, horrible place because it was where I was raised and the things that happened to me and the things that are still happening in that community, because I see people here on there are from New York State, but Newburgh is a place that it's a lot of institutionalized that has gone there. Even people have, you know, I have friends to this day in their 70s are still going back and forth to prison. It has never stopped. So yeah, I wanted to not talk about Newburgh. I didn't want to go back to Newburgh, but Encourageables kept stirring and stirring it up, and I felt compelled to do the right thing because I talk to women individually, but now I'm doing it more collectively and going back to the younger girls because I'm already you know, in relationships with young entrepreneurs in their 30s, 40s, sometimes even 50s. So I'm going back home to the little girls to get those little girls before they get destroyed.
Right.
Come on, Gwen. Let's try it again, Gwen.
Okay, let's try it again.
This show is Gwen's idea. I want y'all to know it's her idea.
Okay.
And what I want to come out of this, what I really want to come out of this is just what is happening. This networking, this conversation that we're having about what happens to us when we come home. You know, what's not there for us? What can we do to put it there? That's the conversation that we're having today. That's the conversation I hope that we continue to have. I want to be a part of this dialogue that's going on. There's so many organizations. Biggie just talked about one. Victor has one. There's an organization that's already established for the women who return from their own state prison in Maryland, the 535 group. We got to bring everybody together so that we can collectively, this collective thing has to happen. We cannot operate in these vacuums that we're operating. Biggie, you're here in Baltimore, I understand. We'll get together. Yeah. Victor, you're in New York. I'm asking you to be my mentor. Right now, out in the public, I'm not ashamed. I need a mentor. And Victor, you seem to be the guy for me. So I'm asking you to accept me as your mentee. I will be willing, and I will get this electronic stuff done so that this won't happen again. This was what got me in trouble, you all. Coming home, not knowing how to navigate this computer stuff, this electronic system. That's what got me sent back to prison. Trying to learn this, and as you can see, I haven't mastered it yet, but I'm working on it. I'm still going to classes, learning though.
You're very determined. Cynthia, say something.
Yeah.
Well, I just got it back finishing the project with Encourageables at 2 a.m. This morning. It's 7 o'clock here in Phoenix. So I have to get off this call to get on another one, but I am looking forward to, because I am the master networker. It is what it is. I'm the master networker, so I'm committed to keeping relationships open and connecting with you gentlemen and ladies to see how we can combine our resources and our information and our intellect so that we can be stronger and united in our individual tasks that are also going to be all connected at the same time. So I'm looking forward to that, the relationships.
I think we need your phone number.
And I thank Donnie for always bringing it together for the right people to meet. It's not by chance that we all come together now. It's our fault if we don't continue, but he brings us to the table to unite and find out what we need to do individually and then collectively.
Did we do those phone numbers again? The phone numbers.
Say your phone numbers again.
I'm gonna start first, and we go around. My number, Biggie, 410-302-2307. I'm gonna say it one more time. 410-302-2307.
There's Cynthia.
I'm Gwen, and my number is 443-695-6480. That's 443-695-6480.
Very good, Gwen.
I guess I can take the next. This is Victor, 646-229-9869. 646-229-9869.
Okay, I'm Cynthia Boykin, and my number is 773-564-3854. That's 773-564-3854.
And it's Allison. My number is 917-575-1025. Again, it's 917-575-1025. And my email is allison@incorrigibles.org.
Can you say that email again, Allison?
Allison, spelled with one L, ALISON, @incorrigibles with an S.org.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, Gwen, before we wind this thing up, did you say Rudy Williams is with you right now? Gwen?
Is she off mute?
Yeah, mute. Okay, well, you know what? It's all good. So, not a bad show. Mr. Victor Pate, we will be there August 12th. We'll be at the Harlem Business Alliance. It's online at Black Wall Street, Harlem 2022. This is our 10th year of doing events in New York City. I love New York. I wear my Yankees cap because I'm a Reggie Jackson's fan. The Orioles shouldn't have treated him greasy. He went to New York and smacked 3 home runs in one game, and he will always be my hero. And Baltimore just get mad at me. Anybody got any final words? To God be the glory. All right, Bob.
Hey, Donnie.
There you go. Oh, my God.
There you go.
I was here all along, right beside my big sis.
Well, Rudy, tell him something. Don't just do that, Rudy. Rudy. Rudy, say something. We got to get y'all some phones. I don't know. Y'all got them government phones or something. But it's all good. Biggie, Rudy, Mr. Vic, Rudy, how long was he gone?
31 or 32 years, I think.
You can't hear us, Rudy?
Come on, bring that phone.
See if he can see us or something is going on, because I don't hear no audio.
Well, anyway, how y'all doing? And we got the phone numbers. Thank you, everybody. Any final thoughts before we go? Mr. Vic, Allison?
This is my final word. This was honored and humbled to be in this group with these amazing
Good morning,
people.
Baltimore.
Okay.
Good morning.
We're not going to give up. We're gonna keep the scribe.
Come on.
$31.
31 years. All right, Mr. Vic, get the final word, Mr. Vic.
Yeah, so I was just going to say that, like I mentioned previously when we were giving what's next, I think that what's next is that we make sure that we reach out to one another, that we can do another collective call where we all can get on and talk about where we are, what we do, and how we can support each other in our various things.
Okay. All right, Mr. Rudy. Mr. Rudy, you gonna say something?
That sound must have messed up there where he is, Don.
Y'all got them Fred Flintstone phones. I'm find out what y'all got going on. Well, anyway, we did the thing. Allison, thank you for taking time out. And this will manifest. And we know that God has already blessed it. Mr. Vic, you my hero. Every time I come to New York, you always take care of me. And
I'm working on it. I'll get that stuff for you in advance. You know, I know you coming to 12. I'm always honored and have you here. So I'll be working on it.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, everybody. And top of the morning to you. Good morning, world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, brother, for bringing us together.
Always.